Hello everybody, it is The Deafening Silence bringing you another ASMR video. For today, I thought I would try something that I haven't really seen anybody do on YouTube, which is do a flip through of the strategy guide. Now I should say first off, this thing is 352 pages long. We will not be able to get through all this today, but I plan to do about a half hour, and if you guys like it and want to see more, I will finish the rest of this one. Short synopsis or short explanation is, ever since Pokemon Black and White, I've made it an effort to get each of the strategy guides. And I usually only use them for seeing what Pokemon are in each route and maybe some items here and there, TMs specifically. But I always enjoyed flipping through these things. It was cool when all the other kids had them as a kid when I was growing up, but I never could have them myself. But Johto is my favorite region as far as setting and, the styles and themes that they use, especially Ecruteak City. So I figured we could flip through this thing and take a look. So let's begin. When you start, you get this little region map here showing the area, and as you can tell, each main town, or each town is named after trees. That's the theme of this one, whereas Generation 1 was colors. Flipping it around, when we start off, they show you a list of moves and types and what's effective against what and what's not effective and that sort of thing. Of course, it isn't taking into account dual types, but maybe we can explore that later. Set a course for the Hearth system. No, it's set a course for the Johto region. And there's this lovely, beautiful illustration of Ecruteak City. The tower and the shrine where the legendary trio from this particular game reside. Then we got this little prologue here, and I'll read the first part of it. One day, a youth from Pallet Town was called to meet Professor Oak, a renowned Pokemon researcher. When the youth arrived at Professor Oak's Pokemon lab, a wonderful proposal awaited. There are 3 Pokemon here. You can have one. Go on, choose. So the youth chose between Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, picking the Pokemon that seemed best. Then along came a rival, Blue, and we don't like Blue. That's why we always gave him, mean nicknames as a kid. Blue immediately challenged the youth to a Pokemon battle, but the youth defeated Blue, showing great skill in doing so. After seeing how well the youth in that Pokemon battled, Professor Oak knew he had found a great talent. The professor then gave the youth an important mission. That mission was to complete the Pokédex, a task that would require traveling through the entire Kanto region and catching all of the 150 kinds of Pokemon said to live there. With a heart full of passion, the youth set out on the journey. And then we have just details progressing through the story, basically getting you caught up if for some reason you didn't play the originals. There's Koga there. I apologize for any glare, too, that comes through in this video. Got Koga there. The coolest looking gym leader in my opinion. Then there's Sabrina, one of the prettier Pokegirls that they ever designed in my opinion. And then there's Blaine. We like Blaine because Blaine uses fire types. Then I got the Elite Four, which she was always a problem for me. If I got past her, Bruno and Agatha were pretty easy, and then Lance and Gary could be a problem if my Pokemon weren't leveled up enough, but if they were, it was generally okay. She was annoying for some reason, and ice types aren't even that powerful, as you guys may know. So then we got our group of people. There's, of course, Whitney with the infamous stupid Miltank. There is Jasmine with the Steelix. With the Steelix. And then there's Claire. I swear her name, I'm trying to get this all on one screen here. I swear her name is spelled with an E. I swear it is. So possibly we've got a typo here? Okay, I readjusted the camera, so hopefully we can see the full page better. Then we've got the Elite Four of this game. Bruno stayed. Koga got in. And Karen and Will, I forget what they use. I feel like she's psychic or dark, and he's like dark or something like that. And of course, Lance has his underleveled Dragonites. Then we got the Elite Four, Elite Four, Team Rocket, which, in a change from Gold, Silver, and Crystal, in previous games, they actually gave these characters names. So, then we got an index showing everything. The Johto region map, which we sort of looked at earlier. Recommended routes, which, if you follow this in order, it'll be fine. The routes aren't in order, so just keep that in mind. So, primer for Pokemon training, which is a lot of just how-to stuff, raising your Pokemon right, that sort of thing. Pokemon Evolve about leveling up. Well, some do. Like Jumpluff, which is a really good Pokemon. I found this out. If you use, just try this out sometime. Use a moveset of Substitute, Giga or Mega Drain, Sleep Powder, and Synthesis, and have some fun. Talking about how to catch Pokemon using certain moves. Okay, here's a pretty interesting page. Now, the Dusk Ball by far is my favorite design. I also love the Luxury Ball because it looks like a Millennium item from Yu-Gi-Oh, right? I love using the Quick Ball. Looks pretty cool, too. The Net Ball looks cool. Don't use it a lot. And then, of course, we got the classic, the OG, right? But yeah, the Dusk Ball, my favorite. Kind of looks like a Yoshi egg. Pokemon have different abilities. A lot of stuff that anyone who's played the games know. Talking about different types here. Talking about how to target weaknesses. There's Mamoswine. That's a really cool Pokemon from Gen 4. Then we talk about, how to compensate for weaknesses and stuff like that. So, for example, Chikorita is a grass type, weak to fire. Use Krabby. Krabby is weak to electric types. Use a ground type. And Sandshrew is cool. And you'll want to get an electric type because both these boys are flying types. And out of the two, I like Lugia more, but just barely. And of course, I love Gyarados. What Gen 1er doesn't? Just a bunch of stuff. A bunch of little tidbits. Talking about the radio. Town shops and services. Here's a list of items that you can eventually get, and you get more and more of them as the game goes on. You beat, more and more gym leaders. Like eventually, you'll be able to get Ultra Ball and Hyper Potion and Super Repels. Walking with Pokemon. In this game, you can actually walk with your Pokemon in your lead slot with you, similar to how Pikachu would walk with you in Pokemon Yellow. And as you get more and more steps, it increases friendliness and stuff like that. And they used to actually have with these games, they had similar to like health watches now, they had a little clicker thing that looked like a Pokeball that you could wear on your ankle or whatnot that counted up steps, and you could use that to increase the steps of your Pokemon even when you couldn't play the game. They've not done that before or since, so I guess it wasn't a big feature that was successful. But I actually bought this game brand new, so I actually have mine somewhere. And then here's the meat and potatoes of these strategy guides, the actual walkthrough. So you start at New Bark Town, and similar to like how in Gen 1 each town was a particular color, but you started off at Palette Town, which a palette, of course, has all the colors on it, and the potential for endless amounts of adventures and things to happen exists within a palette of colors. There's New Bark Town, which has the potential to do all sorts of things before it starts as a full-grown tree, you know. And you get your Pokemon extremely fast into the game as usual. You get either Chikorita, Cyndaquil, or Totodile. Typhlosion is one of my favorite Pokemon ever, so I generally would always play with Cyndaquil, but I absolutely love Totodile. I also like Chikorita as well. Your rival here is he's not a do-gooder, he's a bad guy, and he actually steals a Pokemon from the lab. And coincidentally, wouldn't you know it, he happens to steal whichever Pokemon is strong against yours. So if I'm choosing Cyndaquil, he's of course going to get Totodile. If I get Totodile, he's getting Chikorita. If I get Chikorita, he's getting Cyndaquil, because he's a jerk. In contrast, Pokemon Sun and Moon, your rival actually gets the Pokemon that is weak to you. It's a helpful little way for new players to have an advantage and get used to the game, having a fairly easy challenge. We've got the stage 2s here. The differences between Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver. The main differences in any Pokemon game between the two is usually always the Pokemon that you can get. So for example, you could get Growlithe only in HeartGold and Vulpix only in SoulSilver. Now I love them both, so you know, it doesn't hurt me too much. But I have SoulSilver, which we may do a playthrough on this channel of it. And I love Vulpix, and I prefer Beedrill over Butterfree. So what also changes is when you can get these legendaries and what level they are at. So then from New Bark Town, after you get your Pokemon and run into your rival, you head on your way to Route 29, which is pretty much a straight shot through on the way to Cherry Grove City, your first city outside of your hometown that you'll encounter. And similar to Generation 1, you get the classic Pidgey and Rattata encounters, you know, early on in the game, but you also get Hoothoot, which is the Gen 2 starter bird, and then you get Sentret, which is Gen 2's like worthless opener level Pokemon. But Sentret evolves into Furret, which Furret actually learns a ton of the HM field moves that you need to get around certain places in the game. So he's not totally worthless. I would suggest catching one. You'll go on through, you'll have some patches of grass to battle Pokemon and a couple of trainers, I think. And this Headbutt right here, you can get certain Pokemon that are in the trees, but you won't be able to yet. Then you'll get to Cherry Grove City, which is kind of like just your opener, easy city to get used to how the game functions in a certain way. You get your first Pokemart and first Pokemon Center, and then some houses where you can go in and talk to the locals, and they usually give you just basic how-to stuff at the beginning as their text, you know, the NPCs and whatnot. But later on, these houses, people will have items, they will have Pokemon that you can trade for, and all other types of goodies. And you could fish here for Pokemon. You can't get a fishing rod yet, but you will be able to. And you could get you a Krabby here, which is really cool. Kingler's cool. And then you could get you a Staryu, but just at night. And that's one thing that's in this game that was not in any generation before or since. Oh, and also Gold and Crystal. There are certain Pokemon that you could only catch during certain parts of the day in this game, similar to how Umbreon and Espeon only evolve at certain parts of the day in this particular region. And then you could get you a Tentacool and a Tentacruel as usual, pretty much anywhere. Got a bunch of like just random small things you can do here, and you'll encounter your first rival battle after you head north on Route 30, just past Cherry Grove City. If you haven't battled yet and leveled up your Pokemon or anything, don't worry, this dude hasn't either. You'll be fine. Well, you should be. Make sure to beat him because you don't want to lose any money. Okay. You'll head up to routes 30 and 31, and you'll eventually head to Mr. Pokemon's house, who he will give you a mystery egg and will entrust you to take it back to Professor Elm. And this is, of course, after you've beaten your rival. You'll also run into Professor Oak, who will give you a Pokédex to fill out because apparently Blue and Red didn't get the job done in the first game. No, more than likely. He's just wanting you to fill out the Pokédex for this area because he didn't know that there was new Pokemon for some reason. In Route 30 and 31, there's a plethora of Pokemon you can get. You can get, you know, the Caterpie and Metapod, or Weedle and Kakuna, you know, depending on which version you have. You can also get you a Bellsprout. And I recommend getting a Bellsprout here for reasons we will talk about just a little bit later. But yeah, you'll head to back to New Bart Town and battle Pokemon trainers and stuff after that. And then after you do that, you'll head back through routes 30 and 31, which eventually will take you to Violet City. Now, Violet City is where you will get a chance to participate in your first gym battle. And there's also a Pokemon School here where you can learn basics about the game if you haven't yet, like status afflictions and just other cool things. And before you can take on the Violet City gym, you have to go through Sprout Tower. And of course, the gym leader of this area would use Stinking Birds because it's effective against the Sprout Tower and all that other stuff around the area, because in addition to bug trainers, the Sprout Tower, they use, as you guessed it, Bellsprout. Now, here's why I say catch a Bellsprout in the previous region. Because you can go into one of the buildings and trade that Bellsprout for an Onix. And Onix is a rock type that evolves into Steelix, a very powerful Pokemon. You wouldn't be able to get a Steelix yet, but here's the thing. Rock types are very effective against flying types. And if you have a Chikorita, at this point you're at a disadvantage against this guy, especially because he has a under-leveled Pidgeotto. In addition to possibly having a flying move like Gust, these bird users love to spam Sand Attack, and it's very annoying. Even if you didn't have Chikorita, you had a Totodile or Cyndaquil, I'd recommend getting an Onix just for easiness getting through here. And yeah, he's similar to Gen 1 and how all the trainers before were like bug trainers and stuff like that. So Brock, of course, has a type that would be very, very advantageous against those particular groups. So you're thrown for a 180, essentially a curveball. But yeah, if you use rock or electric type moves, you'll be effective. Unfortunately, I don't think you can have an electric type at this point. Like I said, Onix, who learns rock throw at like level 10 or 11, be able to handle them just fine. But yeah, you have to get through Sprout Tower first, which is here. And like I said, they all use Bellsprout. Now, you can get a Rattata in this area, but you can also get you a Ghastly. Ghastly at night. And Ghastly, of course, will eventually evolve into the powerful Gengar, assuming you can trade. And fun story, when I first played Pokemon Gold back in like 2000 or so, I didn't have the ability to trade. So I got to go into the Elite Four with a Haunter, a Machoke, and an Onix, a level 40 Onix that didn't have even 100 HP. I think I mentioned that in my last video, but yeah, you can get a Ghastly here. And after you get the HM Flash from this dude, after completing Sprout Tower, the leader, you can head on through Dark Cave, which you could get through it without Flash anyway. But Route 31, if we go back, Route 31 up here has Dark Cave in the corner. And you can take Dark Cave as a shortcut to eventually go to Route 46, which it's basically a shortcut to get you back to New Bark Town. But you can also capture new Pokemon in here if you want to, like Dunsparce, which is very rare, Geodude, and Zubat. And talking about the gym leader at the previous area that uses flying types, you could get a Geodude, which is effective against flying types, but I don't think you can learn a rock move yet. So, and of course, you don't have the HMs necessary to get to Route 45, which takes you to Blackthorn City, the last gym leader town. So you just can take this way through to eventually get to back to New Bark Town if you need to. And as I mentioned for it here, plethora of HMs that it can learn, as well as Lickitung. If you get one on Route 44 Safari Zone, you pretty much have all your HMs taken care of, pretty much. Then there's routes 36 and 37. You leave Violet City, and you can come straight through here. There's multiple places you can go to. You can go to the ruins of Alph, or you can head on over to National Park, or you can head up to Ecruteak City, kind of the main storyline city of the game. And this area is really cool because I generally can get a third, sometimes even half of my team filled out through here, because I love to use either Growlithe or Vulpix. I love fire types, and I love these two particular fire types, and so I will generally use one of them, especially if I didn't choose Cyndaquil as my starter. And then Nidoran Male, which eventually evolves into Nidoking, the powerful Nidoking, which learns a ton of great moves. And so, yeah, I get a good portion of my team filled out here. These are good Pokemon to get. You can also get a Stantler, which is, I think, kind of hard to find in the game. So, just some ideas. And I mentioned the ruins of Alph, that is to the south on that route. And it is an area shrouded in mystery, and it's been here forever. And the main portion of this area, which is outside, it has like tall grass where you get Natu and Smeargle, and you can get some cool items here and stuff like that. By rock smashing these rocks, you can actually get, I think you can get fossils occasionally that you can, of course, resurrect to get Pokemon. But after you solve puzzles in here, you can get access to the 28 different unknown, which is one of each of the alphabets, and then 2 punctuations. Don't catch them all. You're wasting your time. But anyway, there is Route 32, which, if you exit the ruins of Alph, opposite the way you came, you'll come out through here. And then you can go north back up to Violet City if you so choose. Or you can keep going south down Route 33, which eventually has Union Cave, a Pokemon Center that you can stop by. And then if you keep going south, you can eventually circle your way all the way around to Azalea Town, which will be your second major city to stop through. So there's a lot of stuff to do in between your first and second areas where there's a gym badge. But routes 32 and 33, you can get you another Bellsprout if you didn't before. This area also has a Mareep. And I like Mareep. It is an electric type that has a very, very cool ability called Static, which is if a Pokemon uses a physical move against it, there's a good chance you paralyze it, which paralysis is a great status affliction. You can also get the Hoppip, which evolves into Jumpluff, as I mentioned earlier. You could get you a Wooper. Wooper and Wobbuffet are very, very mortal enemies to any kind of Nuzlocke randomizer. You can also get your first encounter at Ekans. Ekans. I'm an idiot. I apologize. This particular area also on Route 33, if you headbutt the trees, you can get a chance at a Heracross, which is a very, very cool Pokemon. Much like Heracross. I'm actually using one on my SoulSilver playthrough right now. Also on Route 33, if you stop inside the Pokemon Center, this fisherman here will give you an Old Rod, which will give you a chance to finally fish for some Pokemon, like Magikarp, which evolves into the powerful Gyarados, or any of the other cool water types like Staryu, which eventually evolves into Starmie, one of the best competitive Pokemon out there. Union Cave, of course, as we mentioned, is on the way down to Azalea Town. Within Union Cave, you can get you an Onix if you haven't done so yet. You can also get you a Sandshrew, which is a really cool looking Pokemon. I was always a fan of Sandshrew as a kid because he looks so cool. And like I said, I would like to use Sandslash, which if I redo SoulSilver, we may end up doing that. We may end up using a Sandshrew. After all of this, oh, I should mention, in Union Cave, in Area B2F, after you've beaten the Ecruteak City Gym and get access to Surf on Fridays in the game, you got a chance to get a Lapras, which is one of the best Pokemon you could use in the game. Variety of good moves, good evened out stats, a lot of HP. I love using it. It's probably my favorite water type to use outside of maybe Vaporeon or Blastoise, but I think I'd rather use Lapras. So then we get to Azalea Town. And Azalea Town is a pretty small town. You've got Kurt here, who if you get apricorns, you can give them to him and he'll make you Pokeballs. Unfortunately, he makes probably the worst Pokeballs in the game by far. A couple of them look cool, but they're not really good to use at all. But like I said, you also have the Azalea Gym, and the stinking dude's name is Bugsy. And guess what types of Pokemon he used? If you guessed Dragon, trade your game in. He's also a typical bug trainer in that he doesn't know how to evolve his Pokemon. He has a Kakuna and Metapod at level 15. He could have easily had a Beedrill and a Metapod by now. But he does have a Scyther, and Scyther is good in this game. Scyther is a Pokemon that I would like to use in my next playthrough of SoulSilver. He's not as good in the earlier games, but he gets a better move pool in this game, and if he has an Eviolite on him, watch out. So, if you have a if you have a Cyndaquil, you're fine. I would suggest having a flying type at this point. You should have one anyway, so you can fly around to different towns. So get you a Pidgey, and you'll be good if you don't have Cyndaquil. He's pretty easy to handle. You'll also get a chance to face off against your rival again. He's added a Ghastly and a Zubat alongside whatever starter Pokemon he has. They're both poison types, but unfortunately you're not going to have a Pokemon yet that's super effective against poison outside of ground Pokemon. So maybe that Sandshrew would come in handy, but as long as you've leveled up your Pokemon, you'll be fine. That's kind of a theme that just goes on with Pokemon. As long as you train and level and evolve your Pokemon, you're good, right? So there's also Day of the Week siblings all around Johto, and they have different items that will boost your Pokemon's attacks depending on what type they are. For example, Black Belt increases the attacks of fighting type Pokemon, fighting type attacks. So that's cool. And there's a place called Helix Forest. Once you've caught those stray Farfetch'd and taken it back to the Charcoal Man, you can get a Charcoal, which I believe that increases fire type moves. So Cyndaquil would benefit from that. Also in Azalea Town is the Slowpoke Well, and we've got the dastardly Team Rocket. They have returned, and they're cutting the tails off Slowpoke and selling them on the market. You know what's funny about this? The Slowpoke don't even feel it. This is something I learned from a video on YouTube, but the Slowpoke don't even feel it, and their tails grow right back. So it's not the most evil thing you've ever heard of anyone doing, but anyway, yeah, you'll battle Team Rocket, drive them out from, not doing this to the Slowpoke anymore, and you get your first real battle with a real Team Rocket, character. essentially. And he has a Zubat and a Coughing, which it's your first time seeing a Coughing, but they're pretty low leveled, so you're good. And this is where you can get your first chance to catch a Slowpoke, which it's a decent typing, and it's okay. I don't know how good it is competitive, but it'd be good for, you know, walking through the game and stuff. Also, you can see here, the shell is not permanently attached. If you pulled this shell off, would this refer back to a Slowpoke and a Shelder? The questions. Anyway. So after all that, you'll head from Azalea Town here, if you took the way out to the left, into Elix Forest. But we are over 30 minutes now, and so I'm going to end the video here. And like I said, if you guys like it, if you liked this and want to see more, I will continue with the other 352 pages. And we may do the other strategy guides that I have. And if you did like the video and like what I've brought so far to the channel, I would appreciate a like, a subscription, a comment. It lets me know that you guys like the videos and I need to continue doing this. But for now, I thank you guys for watching if you stuck with me this far, and I will catch you again on another video. Take care, guys.